You pour it over cereal, blend it in smoothies, trust it in your coffee every single morning without a second thought. Milk is the foundation of breakfast, the base of recipes, the thing you grab without even reading the label. But four major brands sitting in your fridge right now are hiding secrets that could curdle your stomach faster than expired dairy. What you're about to learn might make you rethink that cold gallon you just bought, because sometimes what looks pure and innocent is anything but. These aren't small, sketchy operations you've never heard of. These are household names, brands you've trusted for years, brands that dominate entire sections of the grocery store with their clean packaging and wholesome promises. But behind the smiling cows and the organic labels lies a reality that the dairy industry desperately hopes you'll never discover. From budget options cutting dangerous corners to premium brands built on lies, from factory farms disguised as pastures to mega corporations hiding contamination under multiple names, the milk aisle is more like a minefield than a dairy section. The toxic secret? It's not just one thing. It's a combination of unethical practices, misleading marketing, health violations, and outright deception that spans from the cheapest gallon to the most expensive organic carton. And the worst part is, you're paying for it, whether it's $3 or $8, whether it's labeled conventional or organic. These four brands have built empires on your trust while compromising your health, your values, and your right to know what you're actually consuming. Before we dive in, do us a favor. Drop a comment and tell us which milk brand you currently buy, or if any of this is already making you suspicious. Hit that like button if you want us to keep exposing what the food industry hides, and subscribe so you never miss another investigation. Because trust us, this is just the beginning. Let's start with the one you probably grabbed because it was the cheapest option on the shelf, the one that saves you a few bucks but costs you in ways you never imagined. Welcome to the world of great value, where Walmart's bargain dairy comes with a price tag you can't see. If you've ever grabbed that blue and white gallon because it was $3 cheaper than the name brands, you might want to know where Walmart cuts corners to give you that deal. Spoiler alert, it's not just the profit margin. Great value milk is sourced from multiple dairies across different states, which means there's almost zero traceability. If something goes wrong, good luck figuring out which farm your milk actually came from. It's dairy roulette, and you're the one spinning the wheel. Here's where it gets worse. Many budget milk suppliers still use cows treated with RBST, a synthetic growth hormone banned in several countries but perfectly legal in the United States. This hormone forces cows to produce more milk, but it also increases the risk of infections, which means more antibiotics pumped into the animals. And guess where some of those antibiotics end up? That's right, in the milk you're pouring over your kids' cereal. Multiple tests have found antibiotic residue in budget brand milk samples, and while the levels are technically within legal limits, legal doesn't always mean safe. Former dairy workers have shared stories about quality control at facilities supplying Walmart. One worker described milk sitting in transport trucks for hours in summer heat before being rushed through ultra-pasteurization, a process that uses extremely high temperatures to extend shelf life. It's not about freshness, it's about masking age. That milk has been on more road trips than your family vacation, and the only reason it doesn't taste spoiled is because they've cooked it within an inch of its life. Customer complaints flood social media regularly. Photos of chunky, great value milk days before the expiration date. Reviews describing a weird aftertaste, watery texture, or milk that separates in coffee like it's trying to escape. One commenter wrote, "My milk went bad a week early, but at least I saved $2. Another said, "Great value? More like great regret. The savings might look good at checkout, but when you're dumping half the gallon down the drain, you're not saving anything." Temperature control is another massive issue. Big box retailers like Walmart have enormous storage and distribution networks, which means your milk might sit in a warehouse, bounce around in a truck, and languish in a back room before it ever hits the refrigerated case. And those refrigerated cases? They're not always as cold as they should be. Health inspectors have cited multiple Walmart locations for improper dairy storage temperatures, which can accelerate spoilage and bacterial growth. You're not just buying cheap milk, you're buying milk that's been through more temperature swings than a hormonal teenager. And here's the real kicker. Walmart doesn't disclose which specific dairies supply their great value milk. It's all hidden behind corporate agreements and supply chain secrecy. So when there's a recall or a contamination issue, consumers are left in the dark, unable to trace the source or make informed decisions. That lack of transparency isn't an accident. It's a feature designed to protect profits, not people. Great value might save you money up front, but the hidden costs, from questionable hormones to mystery sourcing to quality issues, add up fast. Sometimes cheap isn't a bargain, it's just cheap. But at least great value doesn't pretend to be something it's not. Our next brand built an entire empire on a wholesome illusion, charging you double for a story that doesn't match reality. Time to talk about the organic lie you've been paying premium prices to believe. You pay double the price for that cheerful carton with grazing cows on rolling green pastures. Horizon Organic promises a healthier choice, a more ethical choice, the kind of milk that makes you feel good about your grocery decisions. But Horizon's definition of organic comes with an asterisk so massive it could block out the sun their cows barely see. Because while you're imagining happy animals munching grass under blue skies, the reality looks a lot more like a factory farm with better PR. Here's the truth about organic certification. It has loopholes big enough to drive a milk truck through. The USDA requires that organic dairy cows have access to pasture, but access doesn't mean they actually spend meaningful time there. Horizon operates what critics call organic feedlots, facilities where thousands of cows are crammed together with minimal outdoor time. Some former workers at Horizon suppliers have reported that cows get as little as a few hours of outdoor access per week, and even then, they're standing in dirt lots, not lush pastures. It's technically compliant but ethically bankrupt. Multiple lawsuits have challenged Horizon's marketing, claiming the pastoral imagery on their cartons is deliberately misleading. One lawsuit alleged that Horizon's largest suppliers keep cows confined in industrial operations that look nothing like the idyllic farms depicted in their advertising. The case revealed photos showing massive barns, crowded conditions, and dry lots instead of the green fields you see on the label. Horizon settled without admitting wrongdoing, but the images don't lie. You're paying for a fantasy, not a farm. Former Horizon dairy workers have shared their experiences anonymously, describing facilities where sick cows are still milked to maximize production quotas. One whistleblower said that cows with infections would be separated briefly, then rotated back into production as soon as legally allowable. Another described the stress levels in high-density organic operations, where cows exhibit signs of anxiety and physical strain from constant milking cycles. Organic doesn't mean humane, it just means they're following a different set of minimum requirements. And let's talk about what organic actually guarantees. It means no synthetic pesticides in feed and no antibiotics or growth hormones. That's good, sure, but it doesn't guarantee pasture access, animal welfare, or superior nutrition. Lab analyses comparing Horizon to truly pasture-raised milk from small dairies show notable differences in omega-3 fatty acid content and other nutrients that come from grass-fed diets. Horizon's cows might be eating organic grain, but if they're not grazing on actual pasture, you're missing the nutritional benefits you're paying extra for. Customer reviews tell their own story. Complaints about watery texture, inconsistent taste, and milk that doesn't froth properly for lattes flood online forums. One review said, "I thought organic meant better quality, but this tastes thinner than regular milk." Another wrote, "For $7 a gallon, I expect more than corporate greenwashing in a carton." The truth is, Horizon is owned by Danone, a multinational corporation focused on profit margins, not pastoral dreams. They've industrialized organic dairy and convinced you to pay a premium for it. The psychological manipulation here is brilliant and infuriating. Horizon sells you a story. They sell you the feeling of making a better choice, supporting sustainable farming, caring about animal welfare. But what you're actually supporting is a corporation that figured out how to exploit organic certification while maintaining factory farm efficiency. That premium price doesn't buy you a better product. It buys you a more expensive fairy tale with a corporate ending written in fine print. If Horizon sells you false images and broken promises, our next brand goes even further. They wrap their product in sleek bottles and sports nutrition marketing, claiming to reinvent milk itself. But behind the innovation story lies an undercover investigation so disturbing it sparked nationwide boycotts. Let's talk about Fairlife. Fairlife markets itself as milk reinvented. More protein, less sugar, lactose-free magic in a sleek bottle that looks like it belongs in a gym bag, not a grocery cart. Backed by Coca-Cola and priced like a premium health product, Fairlife positioned itself as the future of dairy. Then 2019 happened, and undercover footage from Fair Oaks Farm, one of Fairlife's major suppliers, went viral for all the wrong reasons. What viewers saw wasn't innovation. It was abuse. The footage showed workers throwing calves, kicking them, dragging them by their ears, and leaving injured animals without veterinary care. Calves were kept in cramped, filthy conditions. Some were left to die slowly, while others suffered from untreated injuries. This wasn't a rogue employee having a bad day. This was documented over multiple visits, showing a pattern of neglect and cruelty that painted a very different picture than Fairlife's wholesome marketing suggested. The internet exploded. Major retailers pulled Fairlife from shelves. Boycott hashtags trended for weeks. Fairlife responded with corporate apologies and promises of better oversight, but the damage was done. Former employees later came forward describing a culture of production pressure, where speed and volume mattered more than animal welfare. One worker said that management knew about rough handling, but turned a blind eye as long as quotas were met. Another described calves being weaned too early to maximize milk production, a practice that's technically legal but ethically questionable. When your business model depends on treating living creatures like manufacturing inputs, abuse isn't a bug, it's a feature. And here's the disconnect that makes it even worse. Fairlife charges premium prices, sometimes $8 to $10 per bottle in some stores, positioning itself as a superior product worth the investment. You're paying extra, supposedly for better nutrition and quality, but that premium price-funded facilities, where animals were brutalized, customers felt betrayed, not just because of the abuse, but because they'd been paying more to support it. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. "I thought I was buying better milk. Turns out I was funding a horror show." Let's talk about the product itself. Fairlife uses ultrafiltration, a process that separates milk into its core components, then recombines them in different ratios. It's science, and it works. You get 50% more protein and 30% less sugar than regular milk. But ultra-processing raises questions about nutrient bioavailability. The idea that your body might not absorb nutrients from heavily processed foods as effectively as from whole foods. Some nutritionists argue that the benefits of ultra-filtered milk are overstated and that you're better off drinking regular milk and eating a balanced diet. Customer reviews after the investigation took a sharp turn. Before, people praised the taste and texture. After, the same product started tasting like guilt. One review read, "Can't drink this anymore without thinking about those calves. The protein isn't worth the moral cost." Another said, "Tastes fine, feels terrible." It's amazing how ethics can change flavor perception. When you know what went into making your food, it's hard to separate the product from the process. Fairlife has since claimed to implement new animal welfare standards and third-party audits, but trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. And the bigger question remains. If it took undercover footage to force change, what else is happening behind closed doors at dairy facilities across the industry? Premium branding and innovative processing don't mean ethical practices. Sometimes they just mean better marketing covering uglier truths. 50% more protein, 100% more problems. At least Fairlife's issues made headlines and sparked outrage. Our final brand hides in plain sight, operating under so many different regional names that most consumers don't even realize they're buying from America's largest dairy processor. A company so massive that quality control becomes impossible and contamination becomes inevitable. Let's talk about Dean's. Dean's milk sits on nearly every grocery shelf in America, often hiding under dozens of different regional brand names. Dairy Pure, True Moo, Friendly's, Meadow Gold, the list goes on. Most consumers have no idea they're all connected to the same massive operation. Before filing for bankruptcy in 2019, Dean Foods was the largest milk processor in the United States, controlling nearly a third of the country's milk supply. After restructuring, they re-emerged as Dairy Pure, but the problems didn't disappear with the name change. When one company controls that much of the milk supply, you're not choosing between brands. You're rolling dice and hoping for the best. Scale creates problems that smaller operations simply don't face. With processing plants scattered across multiple states and milk sourced from thousands of farms, monitoring quality becomes nearly impossible. It's like trying to keep track of every ingredient in a recipe when you're cooking for 10,000 people instead of 10. Something's going to slip through the cracks. And with Dean's, that something has included listeria contamination, processing failures, and repeated health inspection violations. Multiple Dean's facilities have been linked to listeria outbreaks over the years, a bacteria that can cause serious illness, particularly in pregnant women, newborns, elderly adults, and people with weakened immune systems. One incident involved ice cream products, but the contamination risk extends across their entire operation. When you're processing millions of gallons of milk through shared equipment, cross-contamination isn't just possible, it's probable. And Dean's track record suggests they're not always catching it before products hit shelves. Former plant workers have described rushed sanitation procedures during shift changes, where cleaning protocols are shortened or skipped entirely to keep production lines moving. One anonymous employee said equipment would be given a quick rinse instead of a proper breakdown and sterilization, because stopping the line for thorough cleaning meant missing production targets. Another described maintenance issues being ignored for weeks because fixing machinery meant halting operations and losing money. When profit margins are razor thin and volume is everything, corners get cut. Those corners include the ones that keep your milk safe. Health inspection reports from Dean's facilities across different states show recurring issues: improper temperature control during storage and transport, equipment with visible buildup and residue, inadequate sanitation practices during processing. One inspection noted that refrigeration units were malfunctioning, allowing milk to sit at unsafe temperatures for extended periods before being caught. By then, entire batches had already been packaged and shipped. Some made it to stores, some made it into shopping carts, some made it into refrigerators and onto breakfast tables. The bankruptcy and restructuring didn't help quality concerns. When a company is hemorrhaging money and cutting costs to survive, the first things to go are often the expensive parts of operations, like rigorous quality control, equipment upgrades, and adequate staffing. Dean's emerged from bankruptcy leaner, but leaner often means fewer safety nets. Customer complaints about spoilage, off-tastes, and consistency issues increased during and after the restructuring period. One reviewer wrote, "This milk tastes different every time I buy it, like they're sourcing from whatever's cheapest that week." Another said, "Bought Dairy Pure twice. Both times it went bad 3 days before expiration. Never again." Here's what makes Dean's particularly insidious: the brand confusion. You might think you're supporting a local dairy by buying a regional brand, but chances are it's processed in a Dean's facility using their equipment, their protocols, and their quality standards, or lack thereof. The label says one thing, but the reality is you're drinking from the same massive, problematic system, regardless of which carton you choose. It's an illusion of choice in an industry dominated by consolidation. Too big to fail, too big to care, and definitely too big to guarantee the milk in your fridge is what you think it is. 4 brands down, and the pattern is clear. Whether it's cutting corners for profit, misleading marketing, documented abuse, or dangerous scale without accountability. These dairy giants have prioritized everything except what actually matters: your health, your trust, and the truth. Time to wrap this up and talk about what you can actually do about it. 4 brands, 4 betrayals. From Walmart's bargain bin shortcuts and mystery sourcing, to Horizon's organic theater hiding factory farm reality, from Fairlife's abuse scandals wrapped in premium bottles, to Dean's consolidation chaos spreading contamination risk across dozens of labels, the milk aisle isn't just confusing anymore, it's dangerous. And the common thread running through all of it? Profit over safety, marketing over truth, corporate growth over consumer protection. Remember what we said at the beginning? You pour it over cereal, blend it in smoothies, trust it in your coffee without a second thought. But these 4 brands have turned that trust into a commodity they exploit. They bet on your convenience, your brand loyalty, your assumption that because something is popular or widely available, it must be safe and honest. They're counting on you not asking questions, not reading labels, not digging past the wholesome imagery and feel-good slogans. Not all milk is bad. Not every brand is cutting corners or hiding scandals. But these 4 have earned their spot on this list through documented problems, repeated violations, and practices that prioritize everything except the people actually drinking their products. So, what can you do? Start by looking for smaller, regional dairies with transparent sourcing. Check for certifications that actually mean something, like certified humane or animal welfare approved, not just the baseline organic label. Ask questions at your local stores. Research where your milk actually comes from. Vote with your wallet by supporting brands that prioritize quality, ethics, and honesty over market dominance and profit margins. Price often reflects the corners being cut. If milk is suspiciously cheap, there's usually a reason, and that reason rarely works in your favor. If it's expensive but marketed with vague promises and pastoral fantasy images, dig deeper before assuming you're getting what you pay for. Transparency should be the baseline, not a luxury feature. If a brand won't tell you where their milk comes from, how their cows are treated, or what processes they use, that's a red flag bigger than a dairy farm itself. The dairy industry has spent decades building trust through nostalgia, wholesome advertising, and cultural ubiquity. Milk is supposed to be pure, simple, nourishing. But what these brands have done is weaponize that trust, using it as cover for practices that range from questionable to outright disturbing. They've turned something as basic as milk into a minefield of hidden risks, ethical compromises, and misleading claims. And they've done it while smiling at you from the refrigerated aisle, promising health, happiness, and quality they're not actually delivering. Here's the bottom line. What you pour in your coffee shouldn't pour doubt into your day. Food is supposed to nourish you, fuel you, and at the very least, not compromise your health or betray your values. These 4 brands have failed that basic standard repeatedly, whether through contamination risks, animal abuse, false marketing, or opacity that prevents informed choices. They've shown that your trust means less to them than their bottom line. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The dairy industry bets you won't ask questions. Prove them wrong. Do your research. Make informed decisions. And when you find brands that actually deserve your trust, support them loudly and consistently. Change happens when consumers demand better and refuse to settle for corporate excuses and PR spin masquerading as accountability. If this opened your eyes or made you rethink what's in your fridge, hit that like button, subscribe so you never miss another investigation into what the food industry is hiding. Drop a comment and tell us which brand shocked you most, or if you've already ditched any of these and found better alternatives. Share this video with anyone still buying these brands without knowing what they're really getting, because the more people who know the truth, the harder it becomes for companies to keep hiding it. We'll keep investigating what they keep hiding. Stay thirsty for the truth, but maybe skip the milk from these 4. Thanks for watching. And remember, what's on the label isn't always what's in the carton, but we'll make sure you know the difference.